Hey guys, today I'm going to be giving beginner tips and some advanced tips to get you started on 5x5. I realized that 5x5 was a lot more fun once I knew all of the things that I was supposed to be doing, because every time you move up to a bigger cube, there are so many more pieces, more freedom, and you're not really sure what to do. There's not really any structure anymore. So what I'll try to do in this video is introduce you to good habits and try to give you ways that are efficient to solve different types of cases. Number 1, how to make centers efficiently. So if you're using Yao 5, it can be hard to be color neutral on centers because that dictates what your cross color is going to be. But if you're using reduction, definitely be color neutral. And what you always want to do when you build centers is start by thinking about the first 2x3. Then afterwards, you're going to make the last 1x3 and join it together. So there are generally 3 ways you can make your first 2x3. And the first way is just to make bars. So for example, I'm going to insert this edge center in like this, then insert the other edge center over here in like this. And then now I have one bar, I have another bar over here already made, and I can join those together. So that's the first way to make a 2x3. The next way to make a 2x3 is to try and make a T. So this one, I'm going to attach it over here. This makes a little T, but I'm going to need one more edge center over here, and I can just add this one in. Then what you do is take another edge center and move it into the intersection of the T. So that makes one bar, another bar, and then you can just do that. The final way to make your starting 2x3 is with 2x1s. So what you're going to need is 2 2x1s, such as this, and then one more edge center. So we're looking at green, of course. So what I can do is attach the edge center first, and then attach each of the 2x1s one by one. So the first one can be done like this, and the second one like this. The other way to think about it is you're starting with a square and attaching another 2x1. So one way you could do it is like this, and actually another way you could do it, which can be useful later on for other centers, is like this. So once you've made your first 2x3, the next thing you want to do is just make a 1x3, which is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Just attach all these together and then insert it down into here. And which one you should use usually just depends on which one's going to save you more moves. So for example, in this case, what we have here on blue is a bar, and we also have this 2x1 already made, and then we can almost make it a T if we just insert one more corner. And of course, the green one's already solved over here. So this is a case where all 3 would actually be okay. So for example, if I wanted to use the T technique, what I could do is insert this corner up to here by bringing the spot down, move the corner in, and go back up. Then just insert this edge center up to here. Now if I wanted to use the 2x1 strategy, what I could do is take this 2x1 and this 2x1, join them into a square, then insert the last one like this. And for this case, it just happens that the best technique is going to be 3x1s, and how that's done is by doing this. Take this one, join it with this, and then move it back up like that. So it's really important to be able to recognize which one's going to be best and be able to use all 3 of them depending on the case. Number 2, special cases for centers. So after the first 2 centers, there are many scenarios that can happen for your next centers. So for example, just looking at orange, we have a lot of orange pieces here, so this is probably a good place to start. What you could do, since we already have a 2x1 over here, is attach it like this to make a square here, and then reattach this one in such a way so that it makes a 2x3 here. So that can be done like this. Now, if we didn't have this 2x1 over here, there's also something else you can recognize, which is if you have this awkward shape, which is like one of the OLLs on 3x3, then what you can just do is something like this. And that makes a T. Ignore this corner, that came from somewhere else. So now what you can just do is insert an edge center over here to finish this up. Now here we have another common pattern, and this is the W or M shape. And what you should do for this one is kind of ignore one of the corners over here. So what you have instead is a lightning bolt. And for lightning bolts, what you should always do is kind of similar to what I showed in the previous one. So you're just going to take one, a 2x1, attach it to this, and then do U2 and then put it back. So W's are a pretty nice case if you have a 2x1 already, because these are actually 2 different lightning bolts. So for example, if you got a lightning bolt from this angle, like this, then this 2x1 wouldn't actually work because it doesn't fit in properly to make a square. So you can just use the other one instead. So we're going to use this lightning bolt instead. And then that does make the 2x3 properly. Another common case you'll see is the almost 2x3 where you're missing one corner. And it does look a little bit tough how to put that corner in, but what you should just do for cases like this in general is find one corner center and then attach it to this in such a way that you make a 1x3 somewhere else. So that can be like this. We're going to attach it to this one. So for example, if we had this on the other side now instead with the gap on the bottom, then what you could do is put a center over here and then join them like this. And then of course afterwards, just put it together like that. Number 3, algorithms for last 2 centers. All right, so for last 2 centers, once you've made this 2x3, there's always a nice way to do the last 3 pieces. And you can always do this with only R and U. In fact, it's always best to do this with only R and U. So of course we have the bar here, which of course will work like that. So for literally any case where you have a 2x1 on top and the corner is anywhere, then what you can do is just move this one onto the side here and see if the corner here, bottom right, see if it matches this one. This one's top right. So that doesn't match. You want them to be at the same spot. So if this one's bottom right, you want this one at the bottom right as well. So what you can now do if it's in the wrong spot is move this one away, move this one to the bottom right, and there you go. Now you can insert it in 3 moves. So another example where you can do this, if the corner is here instead and you have a 2x1 on top, remember I said the corner can be anywhere, it doesn't really matter. So this one is the bottom right, so we're gonna move this corner into the bottom right. Push this one away, move the corner here to the bottom right and move it back down. And then you can now pair them up like this. And here's another example, so we have this and this. What you could just do is move this one over here and see this corner is on the top right, so we want this one on the top right. Move this away, put this at the top right, and move it back down. Then we have the simple 3 move case. Now when you have this shape, what you should do is just hold them pointing down or pointing up and then do RU2 R prime. And then that always sets it up into the 3 move case. Now when you have everything split up from each other and the corners in the bottom layer, try to join up the corner with the edge. And then if they join up like this without pushing the corner out, then just move that corner in 1 move back down in here. And then you have the 3 move case. All right, now we have the same kind of case, except when we join the corner with the edge, the other corner gets moved away. Then instead, just do U2 and move it back, and they'll join together. Lastly, we have the cases where the edge isn't over here. So if you get 2 pieces like this adjacent to each other, just do 3 sexy moves. Now if the edges down here and the corners are diagonal from each other, all you have to do is join this edge with the corner that is lined up with it. So if this corner is lined up with it here, then you want to join these 2 together. And then we just get the 3 move case again. Now, if the back corner is the one lined up with it, then just join it with the back corner like that. And then again, the 3 move case. Number 4, flipping an edge in a back slot. So here we see that we have blue and orange, and we also have blue and orange in the back here. So anytime you want to flip the one in the back slot, you actually have an option not to rotate and flip it. There's always some other option you can do. What we can just do is flip this one instead. So now we can join these all together. So now what if it's over here and we have this one over here? So what we want to do is flip either one of them again, but doing a lefty flip may not be as good as some other option you can have, because generally it's better to use the same hand to do most of the things to avoid regripping the one that's holding the cube steady. So in this case, the better option to do actually is to flip this one. What we can do is take it out like that and then reinsert this into the front slot. And what that does is essentially flips it. Now we can just join these together like this. So we have this here and we want to flip either one of these 2. Now it would be faster, of course, to flip the right side, but what would be even faster than this is to just do R2. And the reason that this works is because of the way the centers are. If the centers are symmetrical, in other words, the top and bottom centers match, then you can just do R2 without changing what the centers now look like. So then afterwards, we now have this one back here and this one over here, and then just pair them like that. Now, this wouldn't actually work if you were doing Yao 5 or if the centers were something like this where it's not matching. But in just that one specific case, if your centers happen to be like that, you can save a lot of moves. Number 5, make multiple edges at the same time. So here, after making the blue and orange edge, then what I notice is the red and blue pair up nicely over here. And just like with any big cube, you always want to make your insertions count. Don't just insert any random edge over here, because that's not going to help with building like anything. All right, so what you want to do instead after solving an edge is make sure that you insert another edge piece in such a way that at least something will be paired. So what I want to do here is insert this one like this. And then that sets them across from each other so that I can continue on with edge pairing while saving a lot of moves. Number 6, M prime U2 M. So there's a really quick way to solve this specific case, and that is, first of all, make sure you recognize it correctly. These 2 have to pair up with this one, and their colors on the front here have to match. So what you do is you put 2 at the bottom, 1 at the top, and do M prime U2 M. And that solves this pair in only 3 moves. And it's really important to know what other pieces this affects. So this will only work if the centers are symmetrical. So like the thing I was talking about earlier, these 2 have to match. So typically you'll use this during last 4 centers because your centers will already be solved. So just a few important things to know about this. It doesn't only affect these 2 edges, it also actually affects this edge here at the back. So if we have a solved edge here, the white green at the back here, then you don't want to do this because M prime U2M will break up that white green. So this is most commonly used in last four centers of reduction, but this actually works in Yao 5 as well. So here we have the red greens and this one across from it. This color matches these two. So what you can do is M prime U2 M. That does break the cross edge, but you'll just have to do another U2 afterwards, and that solves this edge. Now, similar to Yao 5, if you're doing reduction and your centers are not solved, then you'll have to do M prime U2 M, solving this one, and then U2 afterwards. That way you keep your centers aligned. Number 7. Try to rely on your dominant hand. On a 3x3, except for last layer, like during F2L, it's really good to be able to switch hands often, and that's because you don't want to rotate very often. But on big cubes, it's better to stick to one hand, and the reason is because trying to regrip both of your hands on the same side doesn't really work out that well. So generally, you try to keep one hand, your non-dominant hand, in a steady position, and your other hand will do most of the rotating. So for example, for this green-orange pair, what I might normally do on a 3x3, which avoids a rotation, is to do it like this. Put the corner back here, join them together like this with my left hand, and then insert with my right hand. Now the problem with that on 5x5 is that there are a lot of regrips because it does count as a regrip just to switch hands because I have to move my thumbs all over the place. So on big cubes, I think the better option for this is to do it like this. That way my left hand stays steady and my right hand is doing most of the turning. And then similarly now, if we get to this one over here, instead of doing it lefty like I would on a 3x3 to avoid a rotation, I think it's actually faster to just rotate and use your dominant hand. And lastly, when we get over to here, since both of these are in the left side, you can either do a Y2, which I think is fine, then do everything right-handed, or you can just do everything left-handed from here. And since you know you're not going to be really like alternating hands at all, if you're good with your left hand, you might as well just do this all lefty. So it's not really about picking your dominant hand every time. It's more about just try not to switch hands very often. Another way you can force your dominant hand to do more things is during edge pairing. So here we have red, green, and instead of inserting it into the left side, what you could actually do is insert it into the back over here, and that will make your right hand do more things. So anytime you recognize that you don't need a rotation to insert into one side, you can instead insert into the back without a rotation as well, and that accomplishes the exact same thing. All right, so that's it for this video. I hope you learned something new, and I'll see you guys all next time.